Hi, I'm Marsha Florence from Just Ask. As usual, we have a really great show for you today. Hurry back. Hi, I'm Marsha Florence with Just Ask. Today we have Kim Walsh, Director of Detroit Radio Information Service, and Catherine Goodell, Volunteer Program Host. Hi, ladies. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you? Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Kim, we want to ask you some questions about Detroit Radio Information Service. Starting off, normally we ask our guests if they have a disability, would they give us a brief history? We realize that you don't have a disability, but you are a person that assists persons with disabilities, such as the visually impaired.
Our service is for anyone who can't see, hold, or comprehend conventional printed matter. So that would include people who are blind, visually impaired, possibly someone who has arthritis and can't turn the pages of a book, and a vast a variety of disabilities, everything from dyslexia to people who've had strokes or have an illness like MS.
Okay. And in the event, how does your organization come about? Is it an organization or association? What is it considered?
Well, actually, it's a radio service, and it is a nonprofit organization that is part of Wayne State University. The service was founded in 1978 to fill an information void that was prevalent among people who are blind. And the service is one of about 120 similar services across the country. Leaders in the blind community, including Area Alliance, went to another state and discovered how this service worked and brought the idea back to Detroit and founded the service at Wayne State.
Okay. So basically the population may be visually impaired persons, but also persons, like you said before, may have arthritis, or you say can't turn the pages and things like that?
Yeah, the service is available. It's a radio reading service which is available for anyone who can't see, hold, or comprehend print. Probably 70% of our listeners are senior citizens who've lost vision later in life, but we also have young people as young as 7th or 8th grade who use the service for other reasons.
Okay. Now, does it cost to, is it a subscription, or does it cost to be involved, or how's that?
No, the Detroit Radio Information Service is free to individual users. Mm-hmm. We ask listeners to make donations because we are nonprofit, but that is not mandatory and has no bearing on whether we provide service to the person.
Any state or federally funded sources are any of your backers?
No, the Detroit Radio Information Service is funded through private sources.
Okay, okay. So one can just actually donate monies or whatever. Is it money and time to be involved in the program itself?
The Detroit Radio Information Service depends on the talents of about 140 community volunteers and private donations. So yes, businesses, foundations, corporations, individuals, special events, special project monies, and so forth are how we keep operating, including a substantial amount of in-kind support. We are housed at Public Radio WDET at Wayne State University, and basically don't have any of the expenses that many nonprofits have, and that we don't have those administrative costs, and we don't have overhead.
Okay.
Most of those donations I just mentioned go to support our actual program.
Okay, and is the operation, 24 hours, or is it cutoff time? Is it a 7-day week program? What is it? Can you give us a little?
Sure. Would you like a little background on the program as well? As a radio reading service, our mission is to provide access to the printed word, basically. So our volunteers read more than 100 newspapers and magazines in a week's time. Well, we present more than 100 newspapers and magazines. We go back and forth between reading publications in our local studio and a service in New York called the In Touch Network. So some of the programming we broadcast, we don't actually read those materials. But in our studio, we read dozens of publications for people who live all over the metropolitan area. We read the Detroit News and Free Press, the Macomb Daily, and the Oakland Press on a daily basis. We also provide the access to Crane's Detroit Business, The Observer, and Eccentric. Detroit Monthly. Nationally, we provide access daily to the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and just dozens and dozens of magazines that people wouldn't ordinarily have access to.
Okay. Now, when you say you provide that service, do you read the entire paper for the listeners? Is it reading the entire paper, or is it selected portions of papers? Can you tell us that?
Today I brought Catherine Goodell with me, and
Okay.
Catherine happens to be a volunteer reader on our service. She's done a number of different programs for us, so I think I'm going to have Catherine answer that question.
Kathy, can you fill that in for us?
Sure. For example, when I read for suburban publications, the Macomb Daily and the Oakland Press, we would pretty much read the complete paper because these are smaller suburban newspapers. In Bright Ideas, which is programming for young listeners, we would read a variety of material from different sources. For example, the Yak pages from the Free Press and other youth-oriented material. And now currently I'm doing a program of inspirational readings. So for example, we'd read out of a Guidepost magazine or something of that nature, and other uplifting works.
Okay.
But we cover as much as we can.
So can you tell us how you got involved with the services, Catherine?
Well, I had heard actually the fundraising radio spots on WDET that had mentioned DRIS, and I'd always thought that this was something that I would like to get involved in because the printed word is such a central part of my daily existence. And so one day I heard the number on the air, and I called and said, "Are you looking for any volunteers?" And they said, "Yes, we're always looking for volunteers," basically. I went down to the station and did an audition, and then we worked out a schedule where I would fill a slot on Friday afternoons.
Okay. Now you said you auditioned, so there's persons that will audition you to see what your reading capabilities are or something?
Yes, the volunteer coordinator, I believe it's a set of readings that they ask everyone to go through, and then a list of words that are difficult to pronounce.
Okay, now,
The words that are commonly in the kind of publications read on our service.
They're the kind of words that, like, you'd read in an editorial, but they're not the kind of words that most people use in everyday conversation.
would you break it down for a person? I mean, do you actually break the word down if it sounds like something that, it's not common, or you just go ahead and read straight through?
We read straight through and try just to remember to pronounce it the same way each time.
Okay.
Same with names. Names are the pitfall, because lots of times you just guess.
Okay. Now, what about different languages? Is there any readers that may read a paper or an article that consists of, say, Arabic speaking or Hispanic speaking? Do you have volunteer?
That's a good question. We don't currently, but I should point out that our consumers or our listeners help us decide what it is that we air. And basically we use listener surveys annually to ask our listeners, what do you like? What are your favorite programs? What do you like? What characteristics do you like in our readers? What programs or information would you like added to our broadcasts? And we take feedback that way. We currently have not had any requests for foreign language publications. In the past, the In Touch Network in New York broadcast several, and we did carry those. We currently do not.
Now, when you say a survey, how is your survey? I mean, not to go into depth with your survey, but if you have a survey, and I'm sure your survey is thorough, would it not entail if there were persons of a different nationality that would like for you to read for them, such as a Hispanic person or Arabic speaking? So do you have something that would indicate that? Or would it be a plus to have a person that speaks bilingual? Would it be a plus so that in case they wanted to read in English at one point and then read the same paper over in another language, wouldn't that be considered like a plus?
Well, as I said, if we had a request for that kind of program, we would consider it. We have not had that kind of request, so we're currently not broadcasting anything in other languages beyond English.
Okay.
Our primary mission is to provide access to those publications and to the publications our listeners have requested. So a good example of this is in 1989, when I started working for the service, was the first major intensive survey of listeners, and we called as many listeners as we had good phone numbers for, and we asked them probably 40 questions about to rank the order of the programs they listened to, the times of day they used the service, the kinds of programs they liked, the kinds of things we were not reading they would like to hear. And as a result of that survey, we added the Macomb Daily, the Oakland Press, Crane's Detroit Business. We have since added more information on law and more information on other things. We do more than just reading publications. The balance of the programming is made up of sort of genre programs. We do everything from reading grocery and department store advertisements to we have a special program that features readings from the Old West.
Oh, okay. Now, we have to get to this device here because I'm sure our listeners are probably wondering what station or what channel or how they can tune in. Can you tell us a little bit about this device here? What is it called, or what is it
Sure,
considered?
absolutely. The Detroit Radio Information Service is not heard on a regular radio. It's broadcast on a closed-circuit subcarrier channel of the FM 101.9 frequency. Therefore, you need a special radio receiver to pick up the signal. Essentially, like with cable, this radio is a decoder, so to speak. It's not really, but it functions that way, and it picks up the 67 kilohertz subcarrier that cannot be picked up on the radio. And we loan these radios, which are pre-tuned already to pick up our station, to listeners as they request the service. So once somebody becomes interested in the service and they apply to us for the service, if that person is qualified, we would loan one of these radios out to them. There are several other ways also to get our signal. Cable television is one of those ways, and we are being broadcast in a number of communities on cable. And also a number of institutions use our service within them, everything from nursing facilities to the new Detroit Veterans Hospital.
Okay, wonderful. So your station is already tuned in to this?
That's correct.
Okay.
When someone gets one of these radios, all they need to do is turn a single knob to have access to more than 100 newspapers and magazines a week.
Okay, and you're 24 hours? You're 24 hours and 7 days a week service?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Okay, that sounds really nice. I'm sure that our visually impaired audience and many more who benefit from this program will find this information very useful and helpful, especially today in hearing it, so that someone can actually call in or someone can write to us and let us know that they're interested in contacting you so they can find out how to get one of these devices. Ladies, let's take a break for a moment, go to a commercial, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
Higher education. There's no telling how far it can take you. If you ask Wayne State Medical School graduate Jerry Lininger, he'll probably say the sky's the limit. Jerry is the American astronaut currently on board the Russian space station Mir, an accomplishment cultivated through higher education. Wayne State University celebrates higher education with the centennial of Old Main. 100 years as the heart of the university. For more information on the centennial festivities, April 14th through 20th, call 313-577-2300.
Hi, and welcome back to the second half of the show. For those of you who are just tuning in, we're talking to Kim Walsh, Director of Detroit Radio Information Service, and Catherine Goodell, Volunteer Program Host of Detroit Radio Information Service. Kim, we were speaking earlier in reference to the service, and I wanted to ask you, how does one go about applying to your clients? How do they go about applying to become eligible to use the radio or to receive one?
Okay. I want to first mention that we do have both that you've got here, a regular-sized and also a large print brochure. And those brochures are located in doctors' offices, low vision centers, area libraries for the blind and physically handicapped, and a number of other groups have these available. When someone is interested in the service or has seen material about the service, or if they're watching this program now and would like more information about the service, they can simply call our offices at 313-577-4146, or they can write us at Detroit Radio Information Service, care of WDET, 4600 Cass Avenue, Detroit, Michigan, 48201. And we will provide them with an application. And really, it's a very simple application. Either a person needs to already be registered with the Library for the Blind and Physically Handicapped, or else they need to enclose a simple statement from a healthcare professional stating what their disability is.
Now, does the libraries automatically have this information, all of them, or certain ones, so that if a person just goes to the library and says, well, I'm looking for volunteers or a show that will give me reading information, is it automatically in the library, or?
A lot of libraries have our information, regular public libraries, but going to the Library for the Blind and Physically Handicapped that is designed for people, a similar client as we serve, they'd be more likely to find the literature there.
Okay. Well, I'm just wondering if a low-vision person goes into a regular library, and I shouldn't say regular, but that's how they would
Into
look
their
at
public
it.
library
Right,
in
if
the
they go into a
community.
public library, would the general public libraries also have these brochures or information stored so they can also contact, you know, in other words, if I was a low-vision person and I went to the library and I saw this brochure, I would say, wow, I don't have to come to this library anymore and ask somebody to help me read or help me understand literature. I could just probably call this number here and explain to this person that I need some assistance. Can I do that?
Most public libraries probably do not have our literature. We distribute it periodically, and it either gets put out or it gets put in a reference section. So that's probably not the best way to learn of our service. If somebody is going to a public library, however, and they are a low-vision resident in that community, the librarian would probably direct them to the Library for the Blind and Physically Handicapped. And once they got there, they probably would learn of our service as well. The same would hold true if they visited a counselor through the through the Michigan Commission for the Blind, or visited the Upshur Institute for the Blind, or one of the low vision centers throughout southeastern Michigan.
Okay. Well, that's really nice. Okay. Because I was just wondering how some of the information is distributed in various parts. Now, you're located in the Wayne County area, right? So
Our physical offices are at Wayne State University. That's right.
Okay, but listeners are throughout the metropolitan area.
Yeah, our broadcast signal is a 60-mile radius around our studio, so pretty much anyone as far as Ann Arbor, Port Huron, and even Sylvania, Ohio have used our service.
Okay. Now, can listeners call in and leave messages for future information, or what do they do?
Do you mean if they'd like to receive a package of information from us?
Right.
Probably the best thing somebody could do is call the number I mentioned before, 577-4146, and ask for the Detroit Radio Information Service. They would be put through to one of our staff people, or they would be put through to one of our staff people's voicemail, and they could leave their address and, you know, state the information they'd like to receive, whether that be for listening to the service or for volunteering for the service.
Okay. Any association or working relationship with ADA, Americans with Disability?
There have been a number of things we have done. First of all, our entire service is, as I mentioned, geared toward equal access to information. A lot of people think of ADA and think of wheelchair ramps and lowered counters and accessible bathrooms and phones and so forth, and don't often think about communication access. One of the reasons we do what we do is so that people have equal access to information, and beyond the reading of publications, like I mentioned, we do public service announcements for dozens of other agencies. Between every one of our programs, pretty much on the hour, we do a public service announcement or two. It is our hope and part of our mission that once somebody, you know, I've heard time and time again from people who have a disability, particularly when they can't read, how hard it is to find services, and I know this is one of the goals of your program here, and it's also one of our goals that if a person gets a hold of our service, it's like literally opening the world to them, because they will learn of dozens of other things available to them, from support groups meeting in the community to camps, and you know, you name it, it's on there.
Legal aid services,
Absolutely.
Preferably.
Absolutely.
What about job information? Is there any job web, information that you can give persons?
We do a couple of we do, as I mentioned, genre programs, and we do have
Could you tell us what
genre, special genres, little niche programs. I mentioned the grocery and department store ad reading
Okay.
programs. Those help consumers who cannot read those ads themselves, and a lot of our listeners are low income as well as low vision, decide what they're going to purchase. Now, as far as employment goes, I wanted to mention, you asked if we worked with other organizations, and a number of things we've done in the last few years are indeed tied directly to other organizations. A good example of that kind of project would be a collaboration we have had with the Great Lakes Center for Independent Living that did several different things, all of which were really wonderful experiences. One is that they came on the air, their staff came on the air and hosted a half-an-hour weekly program, and simultaneously we provided these closed-circuit radios that we had out a minute ago to the clients or graduates of their Independence University program. And that program functioned as a conduit of information for the CIL and also kept those clients, or will keep those clients, forever in contact with a very important support system. And that program is one of those kinds of programs that is geared toward greater education, greater knowledge. We don't read want ads per se because most people would not want to wade through the entire want ads to get to the area that they would be interested in, and we would not know what they were interested in. We do have a call-in service where if somebody called in and wanted to know, what did the Sunday want ads say about secretarial work, somebody would be in our studio and be able to answer that question to that single individual.
Okay. I was wondering about that, but that's good because I know that we'll be doing, with the agency I work for, we'll be doing a job fair shortly with the Commission of the Blind, and I'm not sure how we'll go about this, but when we are doing job fairs or doing conferences, and we're doing it with individuals with disabilities, I always wonder the amount of benefits that people, actually receive from going to these job fairs, because we never do a follow-up or a survey to determine the actual percentage of who benefited from it and they had such and such a disability. Over the years, and it's been part of my experience, when you have a disability, you may not always put it down. You fill out an application.
That's very true.
You'll try to leave it off. And I think going into the 21st century, that should be in the past now, where if you have a disability, you should be able to, mention it, put it in writing or whatever, and still qualify for the job, and let it be that if you don't receive the job, it's because you're not their choice by whatever means, but not because of the disability itself. So, and we have another generation of children coming up under us who feel like, well, I may want to be an astronaut, I may want to be the next model or whatever, and these children should be given the same opportunity as all.
Absolutely. The event you're talking about, if it's the career day at Mercy College, is something we've participated in for many years. And last year, as part of a grant project, we had a project funded by the Woodman Foundation. We were able to tape most of the career panel discussions and then broadcast those, and we've been airing those discussions now on and off for the last couple of years as series. So one of the other functions our service offers to groups like that is, you wonder, well, so 300 people attended this event and 300 people learned of this information, but what about all those people who weren't able to get here today?
Right.
That's one of the functions we also serve by going out into the community and taping public forums and then broadcasting that information on the radio. People have, it broadens the audience for those kind of events. Another thing we recently did was to read Southeastern Michigan Council of Governments 2020 Regional Transportation Plan. That's a very important concern to many of our listeners, particularly in regards to how funds are going to be spent on public transportation, which many of our listeners depend on. So we were able to broadcast that as a program so that our listeners have the ability to participate in the public comment period that they offer.
Okay. Now, will you all be attending the conference this year at Mercy College?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
And this year, for the first time, we're going to be joining with another group that you'll be having in a future program. We are a participant in the Bridges to Educational Opportunities and Career Advancement Project. And the project is basically designed to help women and girls get a more equitable education and put the supports in place that they need to accomplish their goals. Our service in our partnership with the project is providing broadcast support to that project, and we are doing a half-an-hour program a week that is designed to focus on the same issues that parallel what's going on with the rest of the project. We're covering issues about employment and how to move from education to employment, how to get the education in the first place.
Now, excuse me for cutting you off, but Bridges is not just persons with disabilities and handicap, though, right? Is it?
No, the project is intended to help anyone who has, I guess, people who are having difficulty achieving those goals.
Okay.
My focus, of course, is on the group with disabilities and what are their barriers to achieving their goals.
Well, Kim, before we wrap up, can we ask you what are your future plans?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We currently broadcast over about 1,500 of these closed-circuit radios, and with the cable coverage we have, probably have home penetration of about 17,000 people have access to our signal. It would be my goal that everybody in southeastern Michigan who needs access to our programming would be able to get access, whether that means broadening the carriage of our audio signal on cable, on separate audio programs on television, in more institutions or through other vehicles. I believe it's important enough, the information access, that people should have that.
You both, you ladies, for coming on today, and I hope this show will help you out a little bit, the best we can. Not just a little bit, but as much as we can. And if we can further assist you in any way, please feel free to contact us. And if anyone is interested in coming on Just Ask, or would like to call and find out some more information, our number is area code 810-988-0250. We'll have Ms. Walsh give her number again, and we'd like to thank both of these ladies. Kim, can you give this number one more time for contact?
Absolutely. I have two numbers to contact us for general information. It's 577-4146. That's area code 313. And if you'd like to hear, we have a 24-hour audio hotline that is basically a program schedule in an audio format. And if you'd like to hear what we air, dial 313-577-4207.
Okay, I want to thank both of you ladies for coming. And once again, as I always say, if you have a question or concern about someone with a disability or a handicap, don't be afraid to ask. Just ask. I'm your host, Marsha Florence. Thank you.
What I'm about to tell you may seem hard to believe. It may even seem impossible, but I assure you it's true. With medical costs skyrocketing at an incredible rate, Shriners Hospitals continue to help children by providing some of the world's finest medical care for the exact same price they charged nearly 75 years ago. Nothing. To find out more, call this toll-free number. Shriners help kids get back on their feet.
Get ready for the home fire safety test.
Okay.
Electrical fire, what do you do?
Use the fire extinguisher.
Good. Grease fire, what do you do?
Smother it.
Terrific. Trash fire.
Now use the water.
Raven, what fire safety tip would you give to kids?
Don't play with matches ever.
Good. Smoke-filled room, what do you do?
Come on, crawl under it.
Great. Now, what fire safety tip would you give to adults?
Don't forget, check the batteries in your smoke detector.
Don't clown around.
Fire is no laughing matter.
For more information, write the Will Rogers Institute, White Plains, New York.
Bertha and others need to know that we care. Please share with a senior or adopt a family this holiday season. Call 494-HOPE.